I'm back. So I left off where Devin was a hero once again. He saved Eddie in the nick of time before Eddie was finished. And while Devin was doing CPR on Eddie, he got curious whether Eddie was the killer that killed Linda Gray when he tried to take Eddie's gloves off. He saw that Eddie had skin problems. That's why he's been keeping on the glove the whole time, which means that Eddie got psoriasis. I believe it's psoriasis, and Devin Dow doesn't really have anything to worry about because Eddie's gone. He has nobody to stress him now. But yeah, that's where I left off. This guy's so loud. This guy's so loud for no reason, bro. Like, shut up. Where did I leave off? Ooh, wow. YouTube.
It helps somehow. It helps somehow, I sure.
Okay. Ziggy. 20 minutos.
Turn TV to what?
20 minutes.
What would you like me to do for 20 minutes?
Set a timer for 20 minutes.
20-minute timer started.
It's supposed to at least. Huh. You learn a new thing every day. He flapped the gloves. I don't think Eddie's gonna be back for a long time, if at all. So you might as well stick these in his doghouse, yeah? Okay, that's it. And that's what I did. But later that day, I went and got them again. Something else too. I didn't like him. We're straight on that, right? He given me no reason to like him. He had, so far as I knew, given not one single JOYLAND employee a reason to like him. Even old timers like Rosie Gold and Pop Allen gave him a wide berth. Nevertheless, I found myself entering the Heavens Bay Community Hospital that afternoon at 4 o'clock and asking if Edward Parks could have a visitor. I had his gloves in one hand, along with the something else. The blue-haired volunteer receptionist went through her paperwork twice, shaking her head, and I was starting to think Eddie had died after all when she said, "Ah, it's Edwin, not Edward. He's in room 315. That's ICU. So you have to check at the nurses at station first." I thanked her and went to the elevator. One of those huge ones, big enough to admit a gurney. It was slower than old cold death, which gave me plenty of time to wonder what I was doing here. If Eddie needed a visit from a park employee, it should have been Fred Dean, not me, because Fred was the guy in charge that fall. Yet here I was. They probably wouldn't let me see him anyway. But after checking his chart, the head nurse gave me the okay. He may be sleeping though. Any idea about his? I tapped my head. Mental function? Well, he was able to give us his name. That sounded hopeful. He was indeed asleep, with his eyes shut and that day's late arriving sun shining on his face. The idea that he might have been Linda Gray's date a mere 4 years ago was even more ludicrous. He looked at least 100, maybe 120. I saw I needn't. That's no, I needn't. I needn't. I needn't. No way that's a real word. That's a real word. No way that's a real word. I saw I needn't have brought his gloves either. Someone had bandaged his hands, probably after treating the psoriasis with something a little more powerful than whatever OTC cream he'd been using on them. Looking at those bulky white mittens made me feel a queer, reluctant pity. I crossed the room as quietly as I could and put the gloves in the closet with the clothes he'd been wearing when he was brought in. That left me with the other thing, a photograph that had been pinned to the wall of his cluttered, tobacco-smelling little shack next to a yellowing calendar that was 2 years out of date. The photo showed Eddie and a plain-faced woman standing in the weedy front yard of an anonymous tract house. Eddie looked about 25. He had his arm around the woman. She was smiling at him, and wonder of wonders, he was smiling back. There was a rolling table beside his bed with a plastic pitcher and a glass on it. This I thought rather stupid. With his hands bandaged the way they were, he wasn't going to be pouring anything for a while. Still, the pitcher could serve one useful purpose. I propped the photo against it so he'd see it when he woke up. With that done, I started for the door. I was almost there when he spoke in a whispery voice that was a long way from his usual ill-tempered rasp. "Kiddo?" I returned, not eagerly, to his bedside. There was a chair in the corner, but I had no intention of pulling it over and sitting down. "How you feeling, Eddie?" "Can't really say. Hard to breathe. They got me all taped up. I brought you your gloves, but I see they already..." I nodded at his bandaged hands. "Yeah," he sucked in the air. He sucked in air. "If anything good comes out of this, maybe they'll fix him up. Fucking itch all the time. They do." He looked at the picture. "Why'd you bring that? And what were you doing in my doghouse?" "Lane told me to put your gloves in there." "I did, but then I thought you might want them, and you might want the picture. Maybe she's someone you'd want Fred Dean to call." "Corrine?" he snorted. "She's been dead for 20 years. Pour me some water, kiddo. I'm as dry as 10-year dog shit. I poured and held the glass for him, and even wiped the corner of his mouth with the sheet when he dribbled. It was all a lot more intimate than I wanted, but he didn't seem so bad when I remembered that I'd been soul kissing the miserable bastard only hours before. He didn't thank me, but when had he ever? What he said was, hold that picture up. I did as he asked. He looked at it fixedly for for several seconds, then sighed. Miserable, scolding, backbiting cunt. Miserable, miserable, scolding, backbiting cunt. Walking out on her for Royal American shows was the smartest thing I ever did. A tear trembled at the corner of his left eye, hesitated, then rolled down his cheek. Want me to take it back and pin it up in your doghouse, Eddie? No, might as well leave it. We had a kid, a little girl. Yeah? Yeah, she got hit by a car. 3 years old she was, and died like a dog in the street. That miserable cunt was yakking on the phone instead of washing her. He turned his head aside and closed his eyes. Go on, get out of here. Hurts to talk, and I'm tired. Got an elephant sitting on my chest. Okay, take care of yourself. He grimaced without opening his eyes. That's a laugh. How That's a laugh. How exactly am I supposed to do that? You got any ideas? Because I haven't. I got no relatives, no friends, no savings, no insurance. What am I gonna do now? It'll work out, I said lamely. Sure, in the movies it always does. Go on, get lost. This time I was all the way out the door before he spoke again. You should have let me die, kiddo. He said it without the melodrama, just as a passing observation. I could have been with my little girl. When I walked into the hospital lobby, I stopped dead. At first, not sure I was seeing who I thought I was seeing, but it was her, all right, with one of her endless series of arduous novels open in front of her. This one was called the dissertation. Annie? She looked up, at first wary, then smiling as she recognized me. Dev, what are you doing here? Visiting a guy from the park. He had a heart attack today. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Is he gonna be all right? She didn't invite me to sit down next to her, but I did anyway. My visit to Eddie had upset me in ways I didn't understand, and my nerves were jangling. It wasn't unhappiness and it wasn't sorrow. It was a queer, unfocused anger that had something to do with the foul taste of jalapeno peppers that still seemed to linger in my mouth. And with Wendy, God knew why. It was wearing to know I wasn't over her even yet. A broken arm would have healed quicker. I don't know. I didn't talk to a doctor. Is Mike all right? Yes, it's just a regularly scheduled appointment, a chest X-ray, and a complete blood count because of the pneumonia. Thank God it's over it now, except for that lingering cough, cough. Mike's fine. She was still holding her book open, which probably meant she wanted me to go, and that made me angrier. You have to remember that was the year everyone wanted me to go. Even the guy whose life I saved, which is probably why I said Mike doesn't think he's fine. So who am I supposed to believe here, Annie? Her eyes widened with surprise, then grew distant. I'm sure I don't care who or what you believe, Devin. It's really not any of your business. Yes, it is. That came from behind us. Mike had rolled up in his chair. It wasn't the motorized kind, which meant he'd been turning uh, which meant he'd been turning the wheels with his hands. Strong boy, cuff or no, cuff or no cuff. He'd buttoned his shirt wrong though. Annie turned to him, surprised. What are you doing here? You were supposed to let the nurse. I told her I could do it on my own. She said, okay. It's just a left and two rights from radiology, you know. I'm not blind. Just die. Mr. Jones was visiting a friend of his, Mike. So now I had been demoted back to Mr. Jones. She closed her book with a snap and stood up. He's probably anxious to get home, and I'm sure you must be tired. I want him to take us to the park. Mike spoke calmly enough, but his voice was loud enough to make people look around us. Mike, you know that's not to Joyland? To Joyland? Still calm, but louder still. Now, everyone was looking. Annie's cheeks were flaming. I want you both to take me. His voice rose louder still. I want you to take me to Joyland before I die. Her hand covered her mouth. Her eyes were huge. Her words, when they came, were muffled but understandable. Mike, you're not going to die. Who told you? She turned on me. Do I have you to thank for putting that idea in his head? Of course not. I was very conscious that our audience was growing. It now included a couple of nurses and the doctor in blue scrubs and booties, but I didn't care. I was still angry. He told me. Why would that surprise you when you know all about his intuitions? That was my afternoon for provoking tears. First Eddie, now Annie. Mike was dry-eyed though, and he looked every bit as furious as I felt. But he said nothing as she grabbed the handles of his wheelchair, spun it around, and drove it at the door. I thought she was going to crash into them, but the magic eye got them open just in time. Let them go, I thought, but I was tired of letting women go. I was tired of just letting things happen to me and then feeling bad about them. A nurse approached me. Is everything all right? No, I said, and followed them out. Annie had parked in the lot adjacent to the hospital, where a sign announced these two rows reserved for the handicapped. She had a van, I saw, with plenty of room for the folded wheelchair and bag. She had gotten the passenger door open, but Mike was refusing to get out of the chair. He was gripping the handles with all his strength, his hands dead white. Get in, she shouted at him. Mike shook his head, not looking at her. Get in, damn it. This time, he didn't even bother to shake his head. She grabbed him and yanked. The wheelchair had its brake on and tipped forward. I grabbed it just in time to keep it from going over and spilling them both into the open door of the van. Annie's hair had fallen to her face, and the eyes peering through it were wild, the eyes almost of a skittish horse in a thunderstorm. Let go. This is all your fault. I never should have. Stop, I said. I took hold of her shoulders. The hollows there were deep, the bones close to the surface, I thought. She's been too busy stuffing calories into him to worry about herself. Let me go. Let me go. I don't want to take him away from you, I said. Annie, that's the last thing I want. She stopped struggling wearily. I let go of her. The novel she'd been reading had fallen to the pavement in the struggle. I bent down, picked it up, and put it into the pocket on the back of the wheelchair. Mom? Mike took her hand. Mom, Mike took her hand. It doesn't have to be the last good time. Then I understood. Even before her shoulders slumped and the sobs started, I understood. It wasn't the fear that I'd stick him on some crazy fast ride and a burst of adrenaline would kill him. It wasn't fear that a stranger would steal the damaged heart she loved so well. It was a kind of atavistic, that's the word, I don't know. What does that even mean? Atavistic. Atavistic.
Atavistic. Atavistic.
Atavistic, relating to or characterized by reverting to something ancient, like something old. Behavior, feelings, or traits that are very primitive, reverting to an ancient or ancestral type. Throwback. Atavistic.
Atavistic.
Belief, a mother's belief that if they never started doing certain last things, life would go on as it had. Morning smoothies at the end of the boardwalk, evenings with the kite at the end of the boardwalk. Oh, I said it right. All of it in a kind of endless summer. Only it was October now and the beach was deserted. The happy screams of teenagers on the thunderball and little kids shooting down the splash and crash water slide had ceased. There was a nip in the air as the days drew down. No summer is endless. She put her she put her hands over her face and sat down on the passenger seat of the van. It was too high for her, and she almost slid off. I caught her. I caught her and steadied her. I don't think she noticed. Go on, take him, she said. I don't give a fuck. Take him parachute jumping if you want. Just don't expect me to be part of your boy's adventure. Mike said, I can't go without you. That got her to drop her hands and look at him. Michael, you're all I've got. Do you understand that? Yes, he said. He took one of her hands in both of his, and you're all I've got. I could see by her face that the idea had never crossed her mind. Not really. Help me get in, Mike said. Both of you, please. When he was settled, I don't remember fastening his seatbelt, so maybe this was before they were a big deal. I closed the door and walked around the nose of the van with her. His chair, she said distractedly. I had to get his chair. I'll put it in. You sit behind the wheel and get yourself ready to drive. Take a few deep breaths. She let me help her in. I had her above the elbow and I could close my whole hand around her upper arm. I thought of telling her she couldn't live on arduous novels alone and thought better of it. She had been told enough this afternoon. I folded the wheelchair and stowed it in the cargo compartment, taking longer with the job than I needed to, giving her time to compose herself. When I went back to the driver's side, I half expected to find the window rolled up, but it was still down. She had wiped her eyes and nose and pushed her hair into some semblance of order. I said, he can't go without you, and neither can I. She spoke to me as if Mike weren't there and listening. I'm so afraid for him all the time. He sees so much, and so much of it hurts him. That's what the nightmares are about. I know it. He's such a great kid. Why can't he just get well? Why this? Why this? I don't know, I said. She turned to kiss Mike's cheek. Then she turned back to me, drew in a deep, shaky breath and let it out. So when do we go? She asked. Ziggy, stop. Whoa. That was a lot of emotion. So quick recap of what I read. So Devin is visiting Eddie at the hospital. He brought Eddie gloves back and a picture with him and the picture of Eddie with him, thinking it would be, thinking he was doing something special for Eddie, but it backfired on Devin. Eddie got a little personal with Devin, telling him about the lady that's with him in the picture and how they used to be a thing, and how the other lady in the picture died like 2 decades before, and how she was the reason why their daughter was basically his ex-wife, how she was the reason why their daughter was killed in a car accident. So, and he he believes, or yeah, he believes that he should have just been left dead, and now disappointed in Devin in a way for saving him.
Please remember why you
Ziggy, shut up. And it doesn't like that Devin saved him, and thinks he should have been better left off dead, because now he would have been with his daughter if Devin wouldn't have saved him, and if Devin wasn't there to save him. After this, Devin was all up in his emotions, so he got out the room. He was in his emotions a little bit. Ziggy, shut up. This is where Devin saw Annie after a minute. Greeted her, asked her what she was doing there, and he told her it was Mike. Mike was doing a regular checkup. That's why she was there. They started yapping. Then Mike actually said the stuff that was on his chest about letting Mike have a little adventure, and he got a little emotional, talking about mind your business, stay out of our business. This is where then Mike came in, talking about it is his business actually. Then it started getting heated. Then Mike told his mom, I want to go on an adventure. I want to experience I want to have the experience too. I want to have fun too. Then his mother, even though Mike's mom was reluctant at first, she agreed to it. Then I ended it off where she said, when do we go? Because even though she was scared for her son, she still wants her son to enjoy himself and have fun, even though she worries for him a lot. But yeah, that's the recap.